I think, I think one of the cultural narratives that we inherit is one in which, it's embedded in that Dr. Seuss story, Oh, the Places You'll Go. There's a sense that I'm the center of the story and I'm called to follow my dreams and aspirations and desires wherever they might lead.
Yeah, you do you, or YOLO.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of is in our culture.
Yeah, and so I think that that worked for me for a period of time until it didn't, until it led to a place of kind of loneliness, I guess would be the thing that I experienced. And the shift was to decenter myself from my own story. I came to a moment where I realized God is the center of the story. And I think that would be the one thing, like moving from like, how do I do this to this is what you should do. I think that if I have any encouragement for you guys as you're navigating this is to actually move into the next season of life with the idea and the conviction that God is the center of your story and not you. If you do that, then you can imagine yourself living as one who is gathered by God, who is being formed by God, and ultimately being sent by God. And that would be like a very simple shift. And you could go back and be the same person, do the same things, but if your mentality shifts, and you actually you will be living a different story. And I think that if God becomes the subject of active verbs in your story, then you're set up for whatever comes next, regardless of what the specific tasks or responsibilities are that you're facing.
That's beautiful.
One dimension of living sent and living into what comes next would be allowing God to be the center of your story. What are some of the questions that, if somebody wanted to do that and to live as a person who is formed day by day, season by season, continuing to say yes to God, what would be some of the questions that someone might consider as they live into that reality?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think part is to consider, how have I seen God at work in my life? So where have I seen the fruit of his Spirit? How do I, where do I see love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control in me? And where have I seen, where that has not been in me? So where has God been at work? When I look back at my life, often when the Lord's working and talking with people in Scripture, he calls us to remember his faithfulness. But I also think there's a remembering of who we were as we remember where we've been, and then who God was in that season, and then how we've changed. And so the act of remembering, to call us to remember, it's an intentional thing to do, to look back and to see where I've seen God work. And so I ask you, where have you seen God work in your life? Where have you seen transformation? Is there a moment where you feel like you have become more patient or more loving or more gentle, where you've, had self-control and practiced it in a way that you hadn't before? I also think it's important to look at and ask and bring community into that too. Like, where have you seen God work in me is a good question to ask a person that's walking closely with you. Can you point out where you have seen God's imprints on my life and in my heart? To know that formation comes in seasons too. And so we are on a journey where we're going to always be in kind of a transition. Sanctification is a lot like formation, and it's the stripping away of the places where we put ourselves in the center, like what you were saying, and putting the Lord back where he properly belongs, in the center of our lives. And so I think remembering that formation and sanctification is a process, and it's this lifelong journey that we're on, and it comes with a lot of different transitions. But part of what we carry as people following Jesus is that we are always being formed, and that we're always being sent, and that we are forever rooted in God's love for us.